Hello, everybody. I'm Teodor Danciu. I'm the founder and architect of the Jasper Reports Library open source project. I'm currently working as a Senior Director of Engineering at Jaspersoft. And today I'm going to present you some of the features and various considerations and limitations about our community edition of products from Jaspersoft. We'll make a comparison with our commercial edition, and we'll see what would make you successful in your endeavor to use reporting tools from Jaspersoft. The agenda today is structured in two parts. We'll first go through the community edition, which is basically made of two products, Jasper Reports Library Community Edition and Jaspersoft Studio Community Edition. And then we'll review the commercial product suite, which has also library and studio, but in professional format, let's say, with additional features. And on top of them, we have a suite of web-based products that complete our commercial offering. Now, the comparison will not be necessarily side by side. It will probably follow more like historical evolution of things, as we started with the library and studio, and then move on to the web technologies and develop other products around these core products. They will also follow some architecture, infrastructure, and going, through various type of deployments and keeping pace with the evolution of technology in terms of deployment and use of applications for reporting nowadays. So let's move on. Where it all started. It started with JasperReports Library. Now, the tagline says it all. It's about a free reporting library that was supposed to be used in Java applications. This is probably what made it very popular early on. I mean, it hit a niche. At the time I started this project in the open source more than 20 years ago. So it hit a sweet spot because there was a lack of reporting technology on the Java platform. And I said, well, I should try come up with something. And this is how it all started. But nowadays, I prefer a different tagline, although it's not, published on websites or anything. But I like to talk about the library saying it can generate any document using any data. That would give you a sense of, the powerful engine that we are having, the rich functionality, and the high level of customization that it allows. And we are going to see all these in more detail. So when it comes to Jasper Reports Library, the first thing that comes into my mind is its perfect, pixel perfect nature. I mean, we produce very detailed output at the level of pixel fineness. Everything is properly aligned, and across the various output formats, we try to keep consistent output. So HTML matches PDF, matches Word output, and even Excel, although these output formats vary in terms of features and specifics. We are able to create very rich documents with complex layouts. And that's because we use a wide range of contents, like we have tables, crosstabs, charts, barcodes. And when it comes to more complex layouts, oftentimes there's a need to use sub-reports, a very powerful feature of our engine. And pixel perfectness and high quality of documents is of course about styling and about fonts, this ability to make sure the document looks the same way on all platforms, all screens, all formats. as I said, we can use any data. So our engine comes with a built-in set of data sources that we support. Of course, most of the time people generate report out of relational databases using SQL queries. That's why most of the time the SQL query fetching the data sits in the report itself. And we have this ability to execute queries through what we call query executors. And of course, comma-separated value files, Excel, XML, JSON data comes natural to our reporting engine, either if it's about loading it from files or from remote calls made through web by using REST APIs. So we got this all covered. And in case you have a scenario where your data source is very special, then an implementation, our data source interface can be done, and we will be able to leverage data coming from your special data source. I already mentioned we support a wide range of output format. It all started with what's called AWT, the native rendering API from Java, because that was used at the time to draw stuff in Swing applications, desktop Java applications. Later with Eclipse, we got SWT rendering capabilities, but everything moved towards web. So nowadays, HTML is the main output format used by our community. And there's, of course, PDF, which is still good for storing, archiving, even printing. Excel, very good for producing documents that are further processed or manipulated with Microsoft Excel or other tools. And of course, we support Word, PowerPoint, and the OpenOffice formats. We didn't see many requests for other document formats. We pretty much cover these, which are the most popular. So if ever you would need a new output format, we can work on implementing it, because our engine produces first a proprietary document format from which we can then export to all these other formats. So new exporters are always possible if needed. What else we can say about, I briefly mentioned at the beginning, our reporting engine is highly configurable and customizable. We have a lot of features that can be controlled through configurations, and this configuration can be performed at different levels. We can set, for example, a preference about how we would like our tables in Word export to be performed, either as nested tables or flatten out on the page, or maybe we want to password protect the PDFs that we do. So we use a configuration property to say, well, the PDF should be encrypted, and so forth. So all this configuration can be made global, at global level, in the application that embeds our library, or per context, what we call a configuration context. For example, inside a single application, there could be different configuration of the engine depending what the reports are used for or where they're delivered. For example, if some reports, HTML reports, are delivered by email, you would probably like your images to be base64 encoded into HTML. So only for that emailing context reports, you would set the embedding property to true. Also, it goes down to report level, dataset level, element level, and other entities inside the report. So various levels of configuration that can be performed. And last time I looked at the documentation listing all the configuration properties that are available, I found 548 entries. So you see how many things can be tweaked to make the report engine work the way you want or the way you need. Also very customizable and extendable. We call them extensions. Other products call them plugins, add-ons. We call them extensions. And it is the way we introduce support for new query executors. I already mentioned we support SQL, but we also support XPath for XML. We support Hibernate query language, AGBQL, and other languages. All are pluggable. And For example, when we write expressions or formulas in text fields in our reports, we can use Java as an expression language, or Groovy, or JavaScript. And this is done through, interchangeable extension that introduce support for these languages. And functions in formulas are also an extension point. Last time we looked, we counted 37 extension points in the library. So 37 ways to plug something into our engine if you need to. The most commonly used extensions come in the form of custom components and generic elements. For example, in our case, charts, maps, barcodes, these special types of visualizations are extensions, are custom components, as we call them. And sometimes we need what we call generic elements. With generic elements, there are pieces of content that need to be dealt with in a special way when exported to various formats. There used to be a generic element, for example, for Flash movies, but Flash is now dead. But you can always figure out, well, how do I embed a YouTube movie inside my report? We'll probably do with a generic element like that. All right, how are people using our Java library? Well, definitely you need to have a Java application to embed our library into. This was the main purpose. We started the whole project years ago. So there was this need for reporting functionality in Java application. Well, and you can do that if you have Java expertise. So, I mean, it's a library. It doesn't do anything on its own. You have to be able to embed it into your own Java application. So you'll need to do some wiring to leverage its functionality. Let's look a little bit at this diagram. What does it mean, do some wiring? Well, first of all, you need to be able to pass data into the reporting engine along with resources such as report templates, images, fonts. And our engine takes this from your Java API call, mixes them, and produces an output. Now, the output, as I mentioned initially, it can be delivered on screen, but we are seeing fewer and fewer desktop applications, displaying natively visualizations like that. So we do have this possibility to render on screen inside desktop Java applications through AWT and SWT. But then with the arrival of, the success of web applications, people want mostly HTML nowadays, PDF, and of course, for archiving and for further processing, Excel is still important, and Word. So we are able to produce these output formats, but is your application that gets the output either in a form of an output stream? Yeah, you provide an output stream so that our engine writes the document into, and you can store that or send by email or do whatever further processing you need to do in your application. So you see, you're responsible for providing data and resources and capturing output. This is the wiring that's needed when using the library community edition. Well, we talked about what the library does and how it's embedded, but at the core of the engine, we are talking about report templates. I mean, we are mixing report templates with data, and we produce documents, final documents for various purposes. And we have a visual designer to help design those reports in an easy way. It's a desktop application called Jaspersoft Studio, and we have a community edition of this. You can use it for free. It's a what you see is what you get kind of tool, where you can align everything at pixel level, and you have various tools. The most important tools that make up this designer are the design view, where you drag and drop stuff and align, and you have all the tools required to visually design it. You have the outline view that gives you an overview of your report template with all the elements that make it up. You have properties view to control the every little aspect of every element or every entity in your report design. And of course, the critical capability of being able to preview the reports that you design. They're all in there and are a great productivity boost for your report creation work. There are also wizards and helper tools. You can start from scratch using the report wizard. You just connect to a database, see the tables, pick your data, then pick your overall layout, like maybe it's a table, maybe it's a chart, a crosstab, and with several steps, the program will guide you, and you'll probably achieve very easily the report that you were looking for with the help of this wizard. Now, when it comes to writing SQL queries or any other query that we support, query language that we support, we have an editor. The SQL one is the most advanced one because it allows you to see tables and joins, and you can, visually design your query and stuff like that. And of course, when writing formulas in various text fields or, the various places where expressions are needed, where you concatenate stuff or apply simple formulas or maybe even more complicated formulas, we have an expression editor that helps you through by, code completion and other tools. Very useful. All right. And all this is for free. So as you can see, you have the engine, you can embed it, and you have the designer. You can design any report, and you're good to go. Now, we've seen what it takes to use the library, and we've seen its main features. Now, that was Community Edition. With Professional Edition of the Jasper Reports Library, what we have is a collection of pluggable extensions that come on top of Community Edition. So it's still a Java library. You still have to embed it. You would still use Jaspersoft Studio to design your reports. It's just that you have more features. And what are these features? Well, first of all, we have better charts, the HTML5 and JavaScript. Why do we say they're better? Well, they're better because they're based on newer technology. I mean, nowadays, if you want to draw something nice, you'll probably draw it with JavaScript. So the nicest charts are now JavaScript charts. So that's why we support this basically commercial charting package through a component in our professional library. There's also about maps, either statistical maps or geographical maps. We support both types, and maps are, of a wide range, and there's a collection of hundreds and hundreds of different types of maps that you could use. HTML component, a very important one. I mean, if you're already familiar with our engine, we would say, well, you already have markup, HTML markup support in text fields in your Community Edition. Yes, that's true, but that's the feature of a text field. So when we say in a text field, the markup used is rich text format or HTML or style text, we're talking about rich text. I mean, it's still text, but it has different variable color, variable size, variable font, but it's still text. And sometimes people say, well, I have a table, an HTML table, and try to render it with the text element, and it didn't work. Yes, because out of that table, we only take the formatted text, and that's what we render. However, in the professional library, we have this specialized component that can render HTML. How does it do it? Well, it uses behind the scenes an HTML, a headless browser based on a library called Playwright. So we are processing HTML and embed it in the different formats that we support. So they're very useful when you have, for example, HTML edited with HTML editor in your application, and you store that in the database and you want to embed it in reports, you'll probably get to use the HTML component. If that's not enough, you can always create visualization that we call custom visualization components. Again, nowadays, nice visualizations are web-based, made with JavaScript, HTML. So we made this easier, and you just bring in your scripts, bring in your style sheet files, so you package them up in a little jar, and you create your own custom component. You add it to Studio, it appears in the palette, and this is how you be able to put it in your report and configure and draw whatever you want to draw in your report, making use of third-party JavaScript libraries or web libraries in general. Of course, all is nice and works natively in HTML, but how would such a custom visualization component or JavaScript visualization work in PDF? Or how would it work in Word, where we need to embed images because it's static? So we are able to render web-based visualization using a headless browser. Behind the scenes, there's usually Chrome or Chromium that gets launched through a library that helps us control this headless browser. And the headless browser renders that HTML or JavaScript for us. We capture an image, and it's that image that we put into the reports. And this is a commercial feature, basically. It's available in our professional library as an add-on, of course. What else is there? Well, I said we can use any data source, and yeah, we even have support for Oracle store procedure. These are written in this language called PLSQL. They require a special treatment. I mean, the queries are to be sent in a special way to Oracle. So we have implemented this. For example, we have a native connector to MongoDB. I mean, you could connect to MongoDB through JDBC using SQL queries, but they have also a native connector, so we support that. And of course, we support other query languages that are specific to our products, like domain query language for JasperReports Server or things like that. So they're all add-on modules available in our commercial library. There's this flavor of Jaspersoft Studio called Jasper Studio Professional. It's coming just basically with support for the library professional extension. That's pretty much it, because overall, it's still the same community edition designer that we've seen previously with the same tools. It's just that it supports more data sources, more types of components, more ways to generate visualizations, all coming from these add-ons that we've seen previously with the library. In addition to that, it also has a plugin that enables you to connect from Studio to an instance of our server. I mean, we will talk about our server later, but let's just say we have a server plugin that allows you to manage your server instance from within the Jaspersoft Studio Professional. All right. Well, at this point, we've talked about Java API, about our Java library, either Community Edition or Professional, have to embed it in Java application. We have this desktop designer, you design your reports, it's all Java. But, we all know nowadays everything is about the web. So let's see what steps we made towards, being successful on the web with our technology. Well, it's not necessarily a chronological, order of presentation here. It's more like in layers of functionality. So I'm introducing you to JasperReports IO. We had a successful Java application, but it could only be used inside Java applications. What about somebody having a, I don't know, .NET application or a PHP application or a Visual C++ application? How would they be able to use our stuff? Well, we said, let's make a REST API wrapper on top of the Java API. So we have a REST API on top of a Java API. So now you can make REST API instead of Java API calls. And the good thing is about REST APIs, you can make from any platform, any programming language, right? So it's still about you providing the parameter values and capturing the output. So you make a REST call, pass your parameters and information for the report you want to execute, and then you receive a response that you need to capture and use in your application, but you're making REST calls. In addition to REST API, we have a JavaScript API. If you already have a web application, you would be able to embed reports directly. We even have a report viewer, interactive report viewer that you could embed using JavaScript technology, JavaScript API, into your own web pages. So this is what Jasper Reports offers mainly. And how it does that? Because JasperReports IO is a web application itself. Well, it's platform independence guaranteed. Of course, for us, it's a Java application, web application running with Jetty or Tomcat. But the fact that you can make REST API calls to it and you can use it for any platform, it makes it platform independent. And I just explained you how it can be, its output can be web embedded. But the good thing about JasperReports IO is that it was designed as a microservice. I mean, we wanted this web application to do only one thing, but do it very well. So our JasperReports IO does only one thing. It only runs reports, but it does it very well. I mean, it's fast, it's scalable, it has everything, but it does only report execution. Everything else is for you to do. Like if you want security, well, you would have to wrap JasperReports IO within the security of your own web application that is making the REST API calls. Because it was built from ground up with microservice architecture in mind, it's cluster ready and it's scalable by design. I mean, the most common way, let's say, to run JasperReports IO would be to run a Docker image. But furthermore, you can spin a cluster of JasperReports IO, which is made of different Docker images specialized in different things. I mean, we have some Docker image that is specialized in report filling, mixing data with templates and producing the generated report. And some other Docker images or containers are specialized in exporting. So they take the generated document and export it onto PDF, HTML, Word, any other. And depending on where your load is, they can spin independent, scale up independent of one another. So scalability is built into the product, and it's the way we scale up when needed reporting functionality for an application an application consumer of reporting functionality. The fact that we now talk about a web application, interactivity comes into the picture. Of course, interactive reports, reports in which you see a link to click on and go to a different report, like a master detail kind of presentations, or you want to interact with a table component, like clicking on a column and sorting on that column, or filtering columns in a table, or resizing or conditionally format. These types of interactions would have been achievable, of course, in the Java application, but there would have been a mountain to climb if we start with the Java library. In this particular case, interactivity is built into the reports, into the engine, because it's already a web application. You're already making web requests, getting responses, and you can chain up reports and do all sort of interaction like that. All right, it's repository oriented. I didn't emphasize this enough when I talked about Community Edition, but at some point I said, well, you mix your resources with the data. Well, the first question would be, well, where do you keep your resources? In a Java application, when you use Library Community Edition, you probably end up storing your report templates into the class path of your application, or somewhere on disk where you cannot very easily control the location. I mean, it would be relative to your application or whatever. With JasperReports IO, we have configurable repositories. I mean, it can be files on disk. You can say, well, the root of the file system is for your resources, or you can store them in databases like Jackrabbit. We have an implementation of Jackrabbit database for content repository, storing resources like that, or can be in cloud. I mean, we have support for Google Drive, Dropbox, GitHub, S3 buckets from Amazon. We have implementation of repositories like that. So your resources can very well be in the cloud, and all your reporting solution can be on the cloud, and you just generate reports from there. All right, a little diagram about how JasperReports IO is used. Well, this time it's no longer inside your application. They're running side by side. So from your parent application, which can be anything, not only Java, you're providing the data in the form of parameters, and you're making REST API calls to our JasperReports IO application, which mixes resources with data. I mean, JasperReports IO as a separate application has its own access to the repositories where the resources are. It has direct access to the databases if you provide credentials and connection details. So it retrieves those, mixes them, and gives you back the output in the form of HTML, PDF, or whatever document suits you. And it's your responsibility to display that, send by email, or further process. So this is how working with JasperReports IO would look like. All right. Now, talking a bit about the next generation report design tool. So what, again, with everything being web nowadays, well, we had to have a web designer. And this is what we've done. We've created Jaspersoft Web Studio. It's the equivalent of Jaspersoft Studio Community Edition and Professional, which we presented as a desktop application before, but it does everything in a web browser. I mean, the architecture is different. You don't have to install it on every machine you use it. You just log in, has secure access, and you benefit from basically the same functionality, pixel perfectness, and everything, all the goodies that we mentioned. All right, and not much to say about Web Studio, maybe that it can run standalone or embedded into our other products. So now we are bringing in the, let's say the big guns, JasperReports Server. Well, JasperReports Server is our complete solution. It's a web turnkey product that has pretty much everything you would need. It has security infrastructure. I mean, we manage users, we manage organizations. With a single Jasper server instance, you can manage multiple tenants. If you have multiple clients, they have their own sets of users, their own resources, their own repositories, basically, and they don't see each other. For them, it looks like the application it's their own only, but you co-host them, right? Authentication, of course, we have support for single sign-on. I mean, single sign-on is the most common customization that people end up doing when using JasperReports Server, because they need to integrate JasperReports Server into their own systems where they already have authentication systems, and we integrate with pretty much everything. With JasperReports Server, we have a proper repository with permissions, and it's all managed through the JasperReports Server UI. You create folders, you assign permissions for execution, for read-only, for writing, everything at resource level. And it can be done through roles, so very, very flexible permission system there. I bring up data source management. Well, you could think, well, data sources configurations are just another commodity. Yes, but they're important. I mean, you can configure data sources, and on top of these data sources, then you can construct a metadata layer to give more meaning to the data that sits in a data warehouse, for example. So you could create a metadata that we call domains, where not only that you define the most important joins and views that you would want to extract data from, giving labels and meaning to the various tables and columns, but you would also be able to control security at table level or domain level or even column level, right? So it's a layer of metadata that we exploit with our tools later on. Well, of course, just like JasperReports IO, JasperReports Server has a REST API to do basically everything. I mean, I can manage repository through REST API. I can manage users. I can, run reports, of course. And I can even embed visualizations through this JavaScript-based API that we call Visualize.js. All right. Talking a little bit about the authoring tools. I mean, Jaspersoft Studio, the most used product at Jaspersoft, because no matter which product from our product suite you use, Community Edition or commercial, professional, no matter which functionality you need, you would have to use Jaspersoft Studio, right? It's the most used, the most popular product in our product suite. It does everything. So obviously, authoring tool for Jasper Server is still the #1 authoring tool is still Jaspersoft Studio. But then lately, we have offer report authoring tools inside JasperReports Server UI itself by means of embedding JasperReports Web Studio. So with a right click, I say to a report template, open in editor. I'm navigating into the repository of JasperReports Server, right click on the report and say edit, open in editor. And there you go. I have a pixel perfect designer in the web. I don't have to launch any other application to change anything or design a report from scratch. So that's very powerful. We have the so-called ad hoc designer. This is more in the self-service area and lightweight data analytics, let's say. So we have a simplified visualization designer where you're presented with the data coming from a domain or from a query you have. And you're able to drag and drop fields in a table or in a cross tab or in a chart. So simple visualizations like that that you can tweak by drilling, pivoting, filtering, you play with that tool until you obtain the exact visualizations that you were looking for. And there you go, you save it and come to it later. You can create reports out of such ad hoc views, put them in dashboards. Again, yet another authoring tool in the JasperReports server, the ability to put together visualizations into a, let's say, single screen visualization. We call them dashboards, which are, of course, interactive. The different parts in the dashboard refresh independent from one another. They can be configured, minimized, maximized, everything that you would normally expect from a dashboard where you can monitor your business, for example, or monitor the activity of your team, see all the parameters in real time, let's say. All right. So we talked about the how to design report visualization reports, but how to consume them. Well, there are various ways to consume visualizations or make use of them from Jasper Reports. The easiest way would be to just make REST API calls to JasperReports Server. There's a REST API documentation telling you, well, what is the URL, what parameters you can pass. And of course, it supports multiple ways to authorize the request, like basic authentication or digest authentication, or of course we support third-party types of or more complex types of authorizations, which sometimes require customization. But we have documentation about how to integrate these security systems. So direct access through REST API makes no exception. So you would be making a call, generate me this report with these parameters. I get the PDF back. I do whatever I want with it, or Excel format, or even HTML. But another way, a popular way to make use of our product is by embedding. I mean, you already have your web application. On certain pages, you want certain visualizations to be generated by JasperReports Server and have them embedded. And you would be doing that either through an iframe, that would be, the older way, or the classical way. But nowadays, people use JavaScript, and seamless integration of our output into your web page is possible, and you could achieve various degrees of interactivity by not letting the end user know there are actually two applications running side by side and providing what they see in the browser window. Um, well, JasperReports Server, turnkey product. I mean, you can use it as is. You don't have to have your own application. You just come every day, log into the JasperReports server and use it as a visualization or reporting portal. It has white labeling capabilities. You can make it look the way you want. You can change colors, logos, brand it, and it would have no trace of being Jasper Server at the core. It could look like your own application that you made from scratch. It has security. We can host multiple customers if you're an ISV or provide the servers to your own customers. And yeah, I keep saying, well, it's about providing data when you run your report. Well, the easiest and most convenient way to provide data to the reports is by using input controls. So you're prompted with a form and where you have your filters, your parameter values, either single select values, multi-select values. Everything is configurable, single values, calendar picker. All these pieces of UI, we call them input controls, and they serve injecting or passing data to reports when you run them. Not only reports, of course, ad hoc views and dashboards as well. So you can just use our product as is, probably customized for look and feel purposes. And another major way to leverage content or produce content is through some sort of automation. Let's say we have a scheduler, and not only that, you can run reports interactively by providing values directly and seeing the output immediately, but you can schedule jobs and you can have a report being run with certain parameters every Tuesday at noon or whatever your calendar is. And not only that, but scheduler-based functionality include report bursting, meaning you can have a report that triggers a series of separate jobs. If you, for example, want to send 10,000 invoices overnight to your 10,000 customer, you'll probably trigger 10,000 jobs like that that will run concurrently and make use of the scalability infrastructure that you might have in place. Also, report splitting is this ability to run a single report but not produce a single document, but rather a series of documents. So with a single report run, I can produce 1,000 PDFs that I deposit in a folder, or maybe I even send by email. So report bursting and report splitting kind of in the same area, but slightly different way of executing reports, depending on what the goal is. And of course, alerting. You might have reports that you run regularly and you monitor for certain values. And for example, if your stock is too low for your data, for your, I don't know, warehouse material, stock warehouse, you would be receiving an email saying, well, we ran that report when we saw that the stock value is low, so take some action, okay? So alerting, also a scheduler kind of based feature. All right, we're getting close to the end here. Just an overview of advantages and with respect to pricing and even other additional services that are available for our products. Definitely, if you go with Community Edition, everything is free, right? You're on your own, not necessarily on your own, because when you need help, you can get help. I mean, we have a history on the forums of a couple of decades now. So chances are that whatever trouble you have, it has already been answered or something like that. So you'll be working with public forums and trackers to get more knowledge about how to do stuff and get help there. So, but you use it for free. Now with Commercial Edition, of course, there's extra functionality, and it comes for a paying license. We have annual subscriptions. And we have a flexible pricing model depending on what you're using or what your capacity is. And for ISVs, for software vendors, we would like to know how you distribute your products, and how you're making use of our technology to give you a better deal, things like that. When you get into a commercial relationship with Jaspersoft, you get a professional technical support. You get some warranties, right, and SLAs and all that stuff to have a steady business, right, with no surprises like that. And we offer global onboarding, and oftentimes you get to talk to the people who are writing the features and all that stuff. I'm oftentimes engaged with customers and help them with various issues, so you get that as well. All right, so yeah, I think the slide skip, but we're definitely in the Q&A part of our session. So if you have any questions, please post them in the questions and answers panel. All right. Will there be a community version of Web Studio? And I'm afraid no, not. Yeah, I think for community purpose, and the fact that it's a Java library, the existing Studio desktop it's probably enough for most use cases. I don't think a Web Studio will come anytime soon, but we'll definitely consider it. Another question: do you have integration with other languages? Well, I'm not sure what languages we're talking about. There are two. I mentioned languages twice today. It's either about the expression languages in Report, and we support Java, Groovy, JavaScript. All right. So we support the major languages like that. If it's about query languages, well, we support SQL, Hibernate QL, XPath for query language. Be the programming languages that the parent application use. I mean, it can be any application develop any programming language, as long as you're able to make REST calls and leverage our technology. So I don't think there's anything for us to do there. Our common language is REST. So the programming language of the hosting or the parent application of the caller doesn't matter anymore. All right, another question. A question about our Oracle PL/SQL data sources. I mentioned it's an add-on in our commercial library. Yes, it's only for store procedure call, because only store procedure calls with PL/SQL require something special. Otherwise, if it's just a select query, it doesn't matter you're running against Oracle. It's still a standard SQL query that we support with Community Edition. So the only thing that is special at Oracle and PL/SQL is about store procedures that do not produce a result set. They produce a cursor or something. So the code is special. That's why it's, I mean, you probably have a commercial relationship with Oracle. We provide you our connector that is working with Oracle. Yeah, can you give more details about SSO, how it works with Jasper? For example, is it tokenized or embedding request headers or predefined authorization? Well, I'm not a specialist in SSO, but I can tell you that we pretty much support everything, because by now we've seen everything. So if there's I mean, with our customers, we went through various cases. So by now, it's highly unlikely that we don't support something. Our technical support would be able to guide you, and our customer success and professional services will make sure you succeed, no matter which authentication system you need to integrate with. So that I'm pretty sure, although I'm not a specialist. Is there a comparison between performance-wise? There's virtually, I mean, at the core, the engine is the same. I mean, Community Edition library is at the core of all our products, and its performance at the core is the same. But when it comes to performance, is maybe how scalable our applications are. I mean, when you're creating your own application, you're responsible to scale it up yourself. You're managing the report executions yourself. If you need to scale up and down, if you're in cloud or whatever, that's everything. All that infrastructure is yours to do. When it's about our application, especially the one that are scalable or from the get-go, like JasperReports IO, well, the way we use the library is meant to be scalable from the get-go. So we have this ability to see where demand grows. Well, is it about report filling or is it about report exporting? Where is my load currently? So we spin certain containers or other containers depending on what functionality is at high peak at that moment. But in terms of how the engine processes data and mixes with templates and does all the magic to produce the output, the program is the same. So performance is, the benchmark is the same, right? It varies based on hardware and infrastructure. All right. What operating system platform does the server run on? We support Windows, Mac, and certain flavors of Linux. It's all documented on our platform support pages, where we describe not only operating systems, but also application servers. For example, our main distributions are on Tomcat, but we support JBoss, Wildfly, and other application servers. So it's all in a matrix where we let people know which platforms we certify. Does JasperReports Server support asynchronous report requests? Good point. Yes, I think today I brought up several times direct API access when you execute a report, meaning you're passing your values, parameter values, and ask for a report, and you wait for it to get back if it's a PDF, for example. So if it's a 10,000 pages report, by the way, we have no issue with large reports. We have virtualization and all that stuff, which is available even in Community Edition. So if you're dealing with a large report, I mean, you might end up waiting for a minute or two if it's 10,000 pages report. So what do you do? Do you get blocked into that request? Well, you can execute the report asynchronously, meaning you ask for the report to be executed. It's put in the queue, it gets executed, it runs behind the scenes. And from time to time, you ask, well, is it ready? I mean, you can put an hourglass or, things like that. Or what's even nicer about asynchronous report execution, you display the first page. So when you run a report asynchronously, and all our products have support for this, it's going to be 10,000 pages long. So to finish, it will take 1-2 minutes. I don't know. But you can immediately display the first page. So you don't have to wait with a blank screen for 2 minutes. You see the first page. Maybe even you change your mind. I don't want to wait for it anymore. I want to see something else. This is not what I wanted. See? So you just basically switch to something else. And by doing that, you cancel the report execution and optimize resources. So the fact that you see the first page immediately, that's a major performance boost in user experience. All right. Well, I think there are some more. AI question about AI. Well, the topic of the day. We're working on some AI, and we'll let you know what we want to do about AI in our roadmap presentations. I think our marketing is preparing some of that. So right now we don't have anything that would be AI specific, but we're working on some of these tools. Yeah. So we wanna be in touch with how the technology evolves. ADA compliance. ADA compliance, well, yeah, compliance in general, whether it's accessibility or whether it's archiving standards, mostly for PDF. Well, they're always a goal and they're always a moving target. So we try to stay in touch with what's the latest acceptance criteria for all these standards. And we're constantly working on being compliant with these standards about accessibility and archiving in general. But it's an ongoing process because they're not stopped in time. They evolve themselves. All right, I think we're on top of the hour. So if there are more questions, feel free to send them over by email and we'll try to reply to everybody. With that being said, thank you all for your participation today and looking forward to see you next time. Thank you all. Bye.